What if I told you that the world doesn't reward those who are right, but those who appear they've already won? And that you don't have to win the war if the enemy already believes you've won? In a world obsessed with proving, defending, and explaining, the most dangerous person in the room is the one who acts as if the outcome has already been decided in their favor. That's not arrogance, that's psychological warfare. And Niccolo Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. When you walk into a room like you belong there, people stop asking whether you do. They start assuming you do, and that assumption rewrites the entire script. The central question here is brutal but necessary. Why do people only start respecting you after you act like you don't need their respect? Because perception, as Machiavelli showed us, is not just part of power, it is power. Think back. How many times have you shrunk yourself to fit in, diluted your opinions to avoid conflict, bit your tongue when someone crossed the line, hoping they'd get the message? And what did it get you? Did it earn their admiration, or did it teach them that you can be ignored? Here lies the Machiavellian contradiction. The more you try to prove your worth, the less worthy you appear. The more you explain, the more you lose authority. And the more you seek approval, the more invisible you become. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming untouchable. And that starts with one act of defiance against the script society hands you. You act as if you've already won. Machiavelli wasn't advocating delusion. He was teaching projection. When you carry yourself like the victor, others start rewriting their expectations, not because you said anything, but because humans are wired to follow the one who seems to already possess the outcome they want. The reason society fears those who walk like kings before earning a crown is because it works. It subverts the natural hierarchy, it unhinges the status quo, and most people, subconsciously, are terrified of what they cannot place. You become unclassifiable, and unclassifiable people are dangerous. Look at history. The most magnetic leaders, the ones who walked into rooms and bent reality, rarely asked for approval. They assumed it, not with words, not with demands, but through presence, through posture, through silence. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "Men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand." People don't care if you're good. They care if you look inevitable. And if you walk like someone who's already arrived, they won't question if you win. They'll start wondering how soon. But there's a deeper reason why this works, and it cuts to the psychology of power. When you act as if you've already won, you dismantle the game others are trying to trap you in. You refuse to play by the rules of insecurity. You stop reacting, and this breaks the spell. Machiavelli taught that power is perception multiplied by timing. When you present yourself as needing nothing, you shift the dynamics instantly. People lean in, they wonder what you know, they start chasing you. Not because you asked, but because you withheld. Here's the dark truth. In human psychology, silence is louder than pleading. Stillness is stronger than argument, and confidence that doesn't explain itself is terrifying. This is how you stop shrinking to fit in. You stop waiting to be seen. You assume the stance of someone already known. But you have to earn that silence, internally. You must train yourself to withstand the pull to justify, to correct, to clarify. Because every time you explain yourself to someone who didn't ask to understand, you shrink. This is the tragedy of good people. They believe that virtue alone earns respect. It doesn't. As Machiavelli warned, a prince who is always trying to be good is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good. Let that sink in. The more noble your intentions, the more you must master the appearance of invincibility. Because in a world where perception governs behavior, power belongs to those who don't just win, but look like they were always going to. So how do you embody this? You enter the room like it already belongs to you, not with arrogance, but with calm inevitability. You speak less, you watch more, you answer only when silence would be less effective, and you don't shrink when challenged. You expand. But this creates tension. People will test you. They'll poke at your silence. They'll accuse you of aloofness, arrogance, even cruelty. Not because you are any of those things, but because your refusal to shrink is unsettling. You become a mirror, and most people hate what they see when the mask slips. This is your advantage. You no longer need to persuade, argue, or overcompensate, because you've stepped outside the emotional economy that manipulates most people. You've become immune to guilt, immune to praise, immune to demand. Because you're not reacting anymore, you're commanding. This is not a personality shift. It's an identity collapse. The old you, the one who needed to be liked, to be explained, to be small, that version dies. And from it rises something infinitely more dangerous. A sovereign self who acts as if the throne is already theirs. And people feel it. They sense the shift. Some will be drawn to you. Others will resent you, but none will be able to ignore you. This is how perception reshapes reality. This is how you stop asking for a seat at the table and become the table itself. If this message is hitting something deep inside you, something raw and angry and tired of hiding, pause right now. Look around at your life, your relationships, your work. Ask yourself, where have I been shrinking to be tolerated? And what happens if I stop? The most frightening thing you can do in a world that profits from your insecurity is to stop apologizing for existing. Machiavelli wouldn't want you to be cruel. He'd want you to be untouchable, because cruelty invites rebellion, but presence that cannot be questioned. That breeds quiet submission. You want power. Walk like it's already yours. Don't fake it, be it. Every hesitation, every over-explaining moment, every people-pleasing smile, kill them, bury them. And in their place, build the stillness of someone who doesn't chase attention, because they are attention. And that's the kind of presence that rewrites your entire life without saying a single word. What happens when you no longer need to prove yourself? When your silence is not absence but command? The answer is unsettling. People change around you, not because they became different, but because you stopped playing the role they wrote for you. The world bends to those who no longer bend themselves. Now you're dangerous, and the most Machiavellian part of it all? You didn't need to fight. You just stopped shrinking. But let's go deeper. Let's strip this illusion bare. From the moment you were born, you were taught to behave, to perform, to seek permission before expressing your truth, to apologize before you even speak. Why? Because society doesn't know what to do with someone who acts untamed. It needs predictability. It needs obedience. And most of all, it needs you to doubt yourself just enough to stay small. That's how systems of control work, not through whips or chains, but through whispers that sound like compliments. Don't be too much. Stay humble. Be nice. But Machiavelli didn't write for nice people. He wrote for those who are tired of being used by the polite fiction of morality, because power does not respect politeness. It respects posture. If you've ever wondered why mediocrity rises while brilliance is buried, it's not because the brilliant lacked talent. It's because they hesitated. They waited for someone to say, "You're allowed now. You will die waiting." The moment you act as if you've already won, something strange begins to happen. People start responding to the version of you they believe has power, even if you haven't changed anything but your posture. Why? Because humans aren't wired to seek truth. We're wired to seek certainty. And the person who looks like they already own the outcome radiates the certainty others crave. This is how power is born in silence. This is how kings walk before they're crowned. There's a psychological term for this: preemptive authority. The brain in social settings looks for the cues of leadership. Who's calm when others panic? Who speaks last instead of first? Who needs nothing but commands attention? That's not coincidence. That's evolutionary design. We follow those who look like they don't need us. It's primal. It's brutal. And it's inescapable. You can try to be the exception, try to win people over with pure virtue, try to build relationships based on equality and mutual validation. But you'll notice something uncomfortable. The more emotionally available you make yourself, the more disposable you become. Because availability is interpreted as neediness. Machiavelli would say, "People admire freedom, but they only follow power." And in this world, power begins with the audacity to act as if you already deserve it. So what does this mean in your everyday life? It means you stop announcing your intentions. You stop justifying your desires. You stop reacting to provocations that demand your dignity in exchange for validation. You learn to weaponize silence. You observe before speaking. You calculate before responding. And more than anything, you move as if the decision has already been made. Yours. But here's where the transformation becomes existential. It's not enough to pretend you've won. You must confront the parts of yourself that still believe you haven't. Because if your posture isn't rooted in belief, people will feel the tremor behind the gaze, the crack beneath the calm. And nothing destroys projection faster than self-doubt. So you must go inward. Ask yourself, why do I still seek permission? Whose voice am I trying to silence with my success? Who told me I wasn't enough? And why did I believe them? This is the internal war Machiavelli never wrote about, but it's the war that decides everything. Because if you don't win inside, you will always lose outside. You'll sabotage your posture. You'll give explanations no one asked for. You'll chase people who never deserved your presence. The person who acts as if they've already won must become the person who doesn't need to win, because power is not about crushing others. It's about being so complete within yourself that nothing outside you can disturb your center. That's the apex predator of human psychology, the one who cannot be manipulated, the one who cannot be baited into drama, the one who watches silently while others unravel in their desperate attempts to provoke a reaction. If you've ever walked away from a confrontation, said nothing, and watched the other person fall apart, that was it. That was your crown, because your silence was not retreat, it was dominance, and the more you practice it, the more untouchable you become. Let's talk relationships, personal, professional, familial. When you act as if you've already won, you no longer seek closeness from those who've only ever offered confusion. You stop chasing clarity from people who benefit from keeping you guessing, and you realize withholding your presence is the most devastating response you can offer. Because the people who once played with your insecurities now have to face a version of you that doesn't need their affection to validate your identity. And they panic, not because you hurt them, but because they can no longer control the narrative. This is the hidden genius of Machiavellian philosophy. Not cruelty, not manipulation, detachment. Machiavelli understood that power lies not in the ability to dominate others, but in the refusal to be emotionally enslaved by them. This detachment is not coldness, it's sovereignty. It's how you stop being reactive and start becoming a gravitational force. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them overanalyze your silence. Let them misinterpret your calm. Because the one who needs no explanation becomes the center of every conversation. Not by asking, not by demanding, but by being the only one who doesn't flinch. That's how you win without lifting a finger. That's how you stop shrinking to fit in and start expanding to take your place. But this evolution comes with a cost. You will lose people, the ones who loved your smallness, the ones who depended on your self-doubt to stay elevated, the ones who adored the version of you that apologized for existing. Let them go. Let their discomfort be the proof that you've outgrown their script. And when the silence surrounds you, when the doubt creeps in, when you're tempted to fold back into the familiar chaos of approval, seeking, remember this. You already won the moment you stopped needing to. Not because you beat them, but because you became unshakable. This is not a mindset. It's not a tactic. It's a new self, a sovereign self. Machiavelli's prince is not just a ruler of others. He is a master of perception. and the final perception he must master is the one he holds of himself. So go ahead, walk into every room like you already won, because when the war is internal and you've made peace with who you are, the world has no choice but to follow. Now we arrive at the final transformation, the moment when acting as if you already won becomes who you are. Not a performance, not a defense mechanism, but a truth that no longer requires effort to maintain. This is where the old identity dies, and something terrifyingly powerful takes its place. You are no longer the person who needs to be seen, understood, or approved. You've buried that version of yourself, the one who waited, the one who asked, the one who explained. And in its grave, you planted something Machiavelli never put into words, but implied in every line of The Prince. You become your own source of legitimacy. The world cannot threaten what it did not create. But that realization comes with a heavy truth. To act as if you already won is to separate yourself from the crowd that still needs a scoreboard, a job title, a relationship status, 1,000 digital affirmations to feel like they exist. They will not understand your calm. They will call it arrogance, aloofness, even emptiness. But it's none of those things. It's the silence that comes from no longer being ruled by the game. And the game hates those who stop playing. So the question becomes, can you hold your stance, even when it costs you everything superficial? Because you will lose things. You will lose the comfort of fitting in. You will lose the illusion of being liked by everyone. You will lose the safety of hiding behind, "I'm still figuring it out." But what you gain is something no crowd can give you: inner gravity. A core that doesn't wobble when others turn away. A spine that doesn't bend when tested. A gaze that doesn't lower when challenged. And that, right there, is what scares people. They are used to performance, to posture, to empty bravado masked as confidence. But when they meet someone who is no longer performing, no longer proving, someone who simply is, they freeze. Because your stillness reveals their instability. Your self-assurance exposes their need for permission. Your presence unmasks the absence in them. You don't have to lift a finger. They undo themselves. This is why Machiavelli urged rulers to be both lion and fox, not just strong, but strategic, not just feared, but underestimated. You act as if you already won, not to dominate, but to become immune to defeat. Because how can you be defeated if you no longer need to win? This is the paradox that terrifies manipulators. They can't bait you, can't guilt you, can't drag you into a performance they choreographed. You don't respond on their cue. You no longer run their script. You're not acting, you are. And that makes you unpredictable, untamable, free. But this freedom doesn't come cheap. You will spend nights alone. You will be misunderstood. You will doubt yourself, because no one tells you that stepping into your own power is a lonely, brutal initiation. No one applauds when you stop shrinking. They get quiet. Some get angry. Others disappear. But that silence, that's the sound of false alliances crumbling. And what's left is you, the one who needed no approval to begin. But here's the twist Machiavelli never wrote. The secret you only learn when you cross the threshold. Once you embody the power of one who's already won, you begin to see differently. You don't chase, you attract. You don't compete, you separate. You don't debate, you observe. And what once looked like obstacles now appear as opportunities to refine your posture, not break it. A rejection isn't a wound, it's confirmation. They were never ready for the real you. A conflict isn't a crisis. It's a mirror. Do I still need to be understood? Every situation becomes a test, not of your strength, but of your stillness. That is the apex of Machiavellian wisdom, not manipulation, but unshakable clarity. The one who cannot be provoked cannot be used. The one who does not need validation cannot be discarded. The one who already carries the outcome within cannot be threatened by anything without. This is where the path ends or begins, depending on how deeply you want to live this truth. Acting as if you already won isn't arrogance, it's liberation from the emotional economy that enslaves most of the world. You no longer seek the crown, you realize you are the throne, not because others say so, but because you stopped needing them to. This is your final test. Can you be misread and not flinch? Can you walk alone and not retreat? Can you lose their applause and not lose yourself? Because if you can, you've already won. And now the world has no choice but to rearrange itself around your certainty. Let them talk, let them guess, let them underestimate. Because while they measure success in applause, you are measuring silence, stillness, presence, the invisible empire no one sees, but everyone feels. And when they finally realize you were never playing their game, it will be too late. You will have already reshaped the board. So go now, not to prove, but to walk, not to fight, but to reign. You don't need their respect. You already decided who you are. You've already won. Now move like it.